and we're good 6 to 7, 8 blocks behind. So we're on Pei Beis Amid Beis by the 2 dots, about 15 lines from the bottom. Kain Shishim Mishpatum. The Mishnah said that a kain who's mishamish b'tumah is going to be what do we say about it? He's going to be
on base, right?
On Pei Beis Amid Beis. And the previous Mishnah who said they don't the a kain who does the avodah while he's tamei, the other kehanim, the young kehanim, would go and crack his skull. Does he have also? Is it just a lav, or is he really chayav mechuyev misa b'dei shamayim? They don't bring him to Bezdin. They would hit him with clubs until his head split. If he's mechuyev misa b'dei shamayim anyway, the Shav gave a delictal b'dei shamayim. Let him be, and let the Rebbeinu Shalom take care of it. Why would they have to go and kill him on their own? So that was Rav Shesha. This is Rav Shesha's sheet. Rav Shesha's sheet is it must be that there's no misa b'dei shamayim for someone who does a kain who does avodah in the Beis Hamikdash b'tumah. Elamai nechayev. Elamai, you're going to say he's not chayev misa b'dei shamayim. Mika miti derachmana patre. That midaraisa he's not mechayev misa, v'anan nekum v'nekdalei, and we're going to go ahead and kill him. So why did they go and kill him? So we have a bunch of examples where people got killed extrajudiciously in the previous block. Misha Laka Vashana, someone who did something that was mechayev malchus, and he did it, and he got the malchus, and he went and he did it again. And we had the machlekes. He did it 2 times, and if he did it, he got malchus 3 times, or he did it 3 times. But in any case, we said Bezdin machnisin lekipa. The Bezdin puts him into a cage, and they feed him the barley till he explodes. So you see that we do kill people, even though all he was mechuyev was malchus. Rachmana patre v'anan kadlina le. You see that Bezdin kills him, even though he's not mechuyev misa b'dei shamayim. So no, over there we're talking about not even just misa b'dei shamayim. We're talking about where he was getting malchus for something that you mechuyev krisis for, and he got a hasra for malchus, so therefore he gets malchus. But it's something that's really mechuyev krisis. Krisis is even more chamerdik than misa b'dei shamayim. Misa b'dei shamayim means the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to eventually kill the person, not necessarily tomorrow. Krisis is that he's not going to live past 60, and his children are also going to be cut off. The krisis is a terrible einish. So they were talking about malchus for krisis. So that's why they did it. So there's no raya that someone who is not mechuyev misa there can be a extrajudicial application of execution. The gav barakatalahu, since he's mechuyev krisis, he's already like he's dead. So we said that someone who steals one of the klei sharis, also they would put him into a box and cause him to die. So the Gemara, no, that's also an exception. Am Rabbi Yehuda klei sharis askinan. We're talking about a klei sharis ramizal yavayu liris b'kabalas hakodesh v'mesu. Like we had seen earlier, we learned out from a pasuk that there's a chiyav misa on him. That we have a drasha to tell you that the Bezdin was. It's not that he's mechuyev to die. It's not a pasuk that tells you that he gets misa b'dei shamayim, but it's a pasuk that tells you specifically in that case that Bezdin has a responsibility to make sure that he doesn't live very long. So therefore they put him in the cage and feed him the barley. Someone who's makal with using sorcery, that we also say over there that we make sure he dies, and he's not mechuyev misa. So we're talking about where it's a similar type of situation where he curses that deity, using the deity, which is analogous to the chiyuv of Mevarach Hashem, of a Megadif. So it appears like he's Mevarach Hashem, which is obviously an extremely serious problem. It's Chil Hashem, and that's why you have to make sure the person doesn't remain on this earth, even though there's no Chi of Misafim. But Boyal al Rames, we said a Boyal al Rames, Kanayim Paigan Boy, that if someone sees someone in what is it called? In flagrante delicto, if they catch them in middle, that you're like Pinchas, you can go and kill them on the spot. We know, we saw earlier that Rav Kahana was reminded of the Cholam, and Rav therefore remembered that there's also a din karas on such a person, that he's really mechayiv karas, and that's the reason why is kanayim paigam.
There's always boil kananis.
Yeah, so there's boil kananis. There's a chiyuv karas, and there's a chiyuv that if you see them b'shas ma'isa, to stop them, like Pinchas did.
It goes both ways. If
a man,
Jewish woman is
it's a discussion. It's not clear. That is a discussion whether this is just a man who's bala knanis, but also a knani who's bana bas Yisrael. Because we learn it out from Pinchas, and Pinchas is only that the only case we have is with a Jewish man. And I'm saying by Zimri and Kizvi. So in any case, we're not able to determine a conclusive question, if Ravacha is right, but we're not able to really respond to Ravacha's question. But Rav Sheshes is not backing away at this point from what he says. Rav Sheshes concluded that a kayin sheshimish betuma is chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. A kayin who does avodah while he's tamei gets misa b'dei shemayim. So esvei hayoitzik, someone who pours shemen on a mincha, on the flour of a mincha v'abayil, or he mixes the oil with the flour of a mincha v'apoises, he cracks apart. These are all, let's so to speak, minor avodas in the Beis Hamikdash, minor parts of the avodah. As we're going to see, there's a distinction. It's always good when we do kachim things. It's going to be a learning kachim, hopefully for a year. There's a distinction between avodah tama, which is the end of the avodah, when you conclude the avodah, right? When it makes sense. The final makeh b'patish, the final aspect of an avodah is more important. So these are all things that are preparatory or parts of the middle of the avodah. They have a lower level of chiyuv if you do them improperly. We're on the 2 lines from the bottom on pei beis amud beis. So hayoitzik, the havayla v'apoisis, hamoilech, someone who salts, which is part of every avodah. Hamenef, certain karbanos, certain shlamim. There's a din you have to wave them. Hamagish, when you bring the mincha close to the mizbeach. B'masader is hashulchan, putting the lechem hapanim, for the lechem hapanim on the shulchan. Hametiv as haneris, preparing the shulchan or preparing the neris for the menorah. V'hakaimetz, separating, he would separate with his fingers part of the flour or part of the mincha. V'makabel domim b'chutz, makabel domim, and someone who's makabel dam. B'chutz, if he does this outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you're not allowed to do. Potter, he's potter. He's not going to get the chorus like you would do for the final parts of the avodah. For example, when someone brings the actual mincha onto the mizbeach, or when he's zayrik the dam on the mizbeach, all these things, if someone does it improperly, for example, he does it b'chutz instead of in the Beis Hamikdash, he's going to get chorus. But for these preparatory things, he's not going to get chorus. Just like we said, he's not going to be mechoyev on them chorus if he does them b'chutz. He's not going to be mechoyev if it's zar does them. These are all things that have to be done by a kohen. They were done by a zar. He's not going to be mechoyev chorus for loy mishum tuma, and he's not a kohen who does it when he's tamei. He's not going to be mechoyev chorus. Begadim, he's not mechuyev if he doesn't missing a beged. You have to do that by with begadim. V'loy mishum richot yadayim v'raglayim, and he's not going to be mechuyev for these earlier avodas if he does it without washing his hands, which a kohen is supposed to do.
So that means that he's doing it chutz lamikdash.
No, we say these are all different options. If he does it bachutz, or you're saying if a zar is doing it bachutz?
No, if he's doing a kohen that does it betuma.
Yeah.
So
You're saying he's not allowed to come into the Beis Hamikdash either.
That's course.
That's another problem he has that he went into Beis Hamikdash betuma. It's a separate thing. That l'chayra he would be mechuyev malchus, but we're saying for the fact that he did avoida betuma, or even maybe what if he was a kohen who became tamei in the Beis Hamikdash? So I don't know if you're chayiv for being in the Beis Hamikdash betuma. It's only for coming into the Beis Hamikdash. I'm not sure about that, but that's a fair question. But all these things you're not going to be chayiv. But the Mashmai says this: only these type of avodas that we said that you can't do them b'chutz and you can't do them b'tum and you can't do them b'zaros. That these are the preparatory. But the mekater, someone who does the avoda tama, the final part of the avoda, if he does that, but one of the examples was betuma. Kayin does it betuma. He's chayiv. My lav misa. No, doesn't that mean he's going to be chayiv misa b'dei shamayim? And it's not going to be like Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes, that was our original question. Whether someone who does avodah betuma is chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. And L'chayr was saying the implication of the Mishnah is that if someone's makata betuma is going to be mechuyev misa b'dei shamayim. So Maraloi Bazhara, he's only going to be mechuyev alav. It's like Gemara, Alazar Nami Lazhara. So if we're saying that someone who does the avodah of makater is only azhara, so that would be mashma that all the things that we said, not just doing it betuma, but also doing it bachutz, and also doing azar doing it is also only going to be mechuyev as a lav. It's not going to include misa b'dei shamayim. B'chsev azar karav yumas. The pasuk says clearly that it's zar who does the avodah, meaning the final avodah tama is mechuyev misa b'dei shamayim. No, hakadisa v'hakadisa. Einachanami zar is mechuyev misa b'dei shamayim, but someone who a kind of does avodah betuma is going to be mechuyev is going to be only mechuyev alav. So maybe Rav Sheshes is right. So this, but then you say what you're saying is if you're saying that when the kohen does the avodah betuma, all he gets is a lav. That means if when he does the final avodah, it's aser, he's not allowed to do it. All these things passel the avodah, but it's not just passeling, but it's also going to be mechuyev a lav. If he does the final avodah, but the preparatory avodah of yaitzik ubayla and all the things we listed at the beginning of the brisa, lav namile, they won't even have a lav. Where do we know that there's a lav? There's a admonition that one should not be yaitzik. You shouldn't pour in the oil into the mincha, and you shouldn't mix the mincha. The pasuk says you have to be kaidish and you shouldn't be mechal, and that is a discussion. So as we're going to see this a little bit later on. That pasuk is only an asmachta. There's no lav on it. It would really be entirely, without any einish. It would still passel the avodah, but there wouldn't be any einish on it. But the midirabanan, we say that there's a lav that you shouldn't do it. Now the Gemara asks a final question of Sheshes, to which we have no response. We have a different brisa that says ve'elu hein shebemisa. These are the ones who get misa b'dei shamayim, tamei sheshimish. And one of the things that's mentioned as in Zimchoy of misa b'dei shamayim is a tamei who did the avodah to yufta. That's taka kasha on Rav Sheshes. Over there we see we're going to bring this brisa in a minute. We're going to go through that brisa at great length. The last block we'll be saying over this brisa that a tamei who does avodah, it says specifically that he gets misa. So that answers directly the question that Rav Sheshes had said that a tamei sheshimish doesn't get misa b'dei shamayim, but we see this brisa says that he does.
The use is only on this tumor part, right?
Yeah.
Not on the rest of the things. There's no.
No,
Question.
that was a different price. So that right. We're not asking a question. We were speculating about what this price over here means. So we're trying to make it work according to Rav Sheshes. And we found out a way. We figured a way. We could say Tomei that it says in this price is talking about that it's only a lav, and a yotze kabayil is mamish not a lav. It's not even a lav. It's just midrabanan. We twisted around this price to work with Rav Sheshes. But then we said there's a different price that says very clearly that Tomei sheshimish is chayim misib shemayim. So then we could go back to really saying that this price also that says Tomei sheshimish is going to be also chayim misib shemayim, and then Yotze Kabayil doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be Rabban, it could be a lav, a regular lav. Gufa. This is the brisa that slugged up Rav Sheshes. The Elu Sheba Misa. These are the ones who get Misa if they do them. Tevel, someone who eats Tevel, right? Tevel is produce that didn't have the Trumas and Maisis removed from it. But Kayin Tameh Sha'achal Truma to Hira. Kayin that ate, a Kayin who was Tameh, and he ate Truma that was Tar. Doesn't Bizarre Truma. Truma can only eaten by a kain, and it was eaten by a zar. All these things get misa b'dei shemayim, and the Gemara is going to go through each one. Where do we see that from? That there's misa b'dei shemayim. Bizarre shashimish, a zar that does avodah is also going to get misa b'dei shemayim. V'tamei shashimish, and a tamei who does the avodah. So this is the part that we just quoted, that a kain tamei who does avodah gets misa b'dei shemayim. Utful yaim shashimish. A tful yaim is a lower level of tumah. It's someone who was tameh and he did the tefillah, but he has to wait till the end of the day for him to be able to become fully tar. So he's not as tameh as someone who wasn't even taival yet, but he's already. So he's taival. So he's going to be mechuyev misa if he does avodah while he's in the status of Tfil Yom. A kain who's not wearing his big day kahuna, a mechusa kapara, and that's even a lower level of tumah than a regular tameh. And even past someone who already did the tefillah, he already was zayrik the mechatas, and he did the tefillah on the last day of his kapara. But there are certain types of tumas, like a mitzayra, for example, or a yeledes, that in addition to doing tefillah and waiting for 7 days and waiting for the end of the last day, waiting for nightfall, they also have to bring a carbon in order to become fully tar. So that's the lowest level of tumah, because they did everything else. They already did their tefillah and they waited for nightfall, but they only have to bring the carbon. So that a person who does a kain who does the avodah under those circumstances also will be mechuyev for misa b'dei shemayim. You have to wash your hands and feet before doing the avodah. The shishu yayin, someone who's shikar, is going to mechuyev misa b'dei shemayim. Upruye roish, and someone who comes, a kain who does the avodah, well, he let his hair grow for more than 30 days. Aval arel, someone, a kain who was not able to get a bris milah. Maybe his two older brothers both died from it, so therefore he's pater from his father. Is not supposed to give him a milah. He's not allowed to do avodah. If he does so, he's not going to be mechuyev misa. An einin is not allowed to do avodah, and if he did so, he's not going to be mechuyev misa v'yoshiv. And someone who does avodah sitting, einam ben misa, ela bazhar. There's no misa. All there is just a lav. Balmum. Let's regards a balmum who does avodah. Rabbi Yomer ben misa v'cham ben bazhar. Rabbi says mechuyev misa, v'cham say no, it's just azar. Hazed b'meila. If someone does meila, he's neneh from kodshim. So normally we talk about that you have to pay chaimish and you have to bring an asham. That's if a person does it by mistake. If he does it b'mezid, Rabbi Yomer misa v'cham ben bazhar. Haichel es tevel. So we're going back on all this long list of things. We said the first long list of things that you mechuyev misa b'dei shemayim. So the first one was haichel es tevel. Someone ate tevel. Minolan. Where do we know that you get misa b'dei shemayim? Where do we see the Torah says you shouldn't be mechal as kacheb bnei Yisrael, that which you're merim for Hashem. meaning that which you have to separate truma. And it says basidim litruma kasam medaber. It says asher yarim al Hashem, that which you're going to take off. So it's talking about produce that you are going to eventually remove from it the truma, because it talks about in the lashon asid. So it's saying on that the yalav chil chil mitruma. Use the lashon of layichalu. So we learn chil chil mitruma, just like eating truma betuma, as we're going to see in a few minutes, that it's a chi of misa b'dei shamayim. So malalam b'misav kama misa, just like truma eating truma betuma is going to be mechuyev misa. So too, someone who eats tevel is going to be mechuyev misa b'dei shamayim. In fact, the Marvin chil chil mi noiser. Let's learn out from noiser instead of learning chil from truma betuma. Let's learn it out from eating noiser, which is malalam karas af kama karas. Let's say it's mechuyev karas, which is even more strict than misa b'dei shamayim. Let's say he should get karas b'dei shamayim. Should get the chiv karas. It's better to compare eating tevel to eating truma betuma rather than comparing it to eating noiser. Shechein truma, first of all, both tevel. The reason why something is tevel is because you haven't taken off trumas. So that's one. So that's more similar to eating truma betuma, because they both involve truma and chutza. They're both things that are not. That they're not in the Beis HaMikdash. Masha Ein Kain Noiser. What is Shechein Chutza? What is Shechein Chutza? There, where is it? Truma Chutza. Similar, is that Truma? Is that Truma? Right. It's the other way around. Truma, we only take the Truma Samais in Eretz Yisrael. Masha'enkin Chutza, Masha'enkin Noiser, sometimes they have a Bama, they have the Mishkan. So if there's an opportunity to have Noiser outside of Eretz Yisrael, it does apply. So therefore, it's more reason to compare Tevel to Truma. Chutz Laretz. Hutra, it also can be mutar, right? Because you can take away, you can be mater Tevel by taking off the Truma, and you could be mater Truma to a Tame by being Taivel and making himself tar. And Barabim, it says a lotion of chilul as opposed to lo yichalalu. Lo yichalalu kachev b'nei Yisrael. And so we learn chilul mitruma. Asher ein kein by noiser. Right. Asher ein kein by noiser uses a different lashon, lo yichalalu. Paris, and it's also Paris, right? Truma and Tevel are Paris. Mashiach Noiser is Kachem. Pigel v'Noiser, and Noiser has the din of Pigel, that if you have the wrong machshava and if you leave it over, these are things that have to do with Kachem. It's another way of saying that it's Kachem, Mashiach Kain, Tevel, and Truma. So tomorrow, Adarab Minoiser Havel Melech. Let's learn from Noiser Chil Shechein Posel, that Psul Eichel. Is it two separate things? Shechein Posel, that I'm sorry, no, Noiser itself, the Noiser, the Kachem is Posel, and the Tevel is Posel. Masha Inkein by Truma, the Psul is in the person that he's tumming, and Eichel, and Psul Eichel. So the Psul is in the Eichel as opposed to in the person. Ele had to be mikvah, and there's no going to a mikvah is not going to help. Masha Inkein by eating Truma, the Tuma, you can go to the mikvah. The comparisons between eating Tevel and eating Truma Betuma are more than the comparisons between eating Tevel and eating Nois. Therefore, we should learn out from Tevel, from Truma, that Tevel is also going to have a din of Misa B'dei Shamayim. He says, the fact that we said Chilul, the Lashonis are similar, we make the Gzeir Shava on the Lashonis are the most similar. So since Tevel and Truma have the same Lashon of Chilul, we learn out one from the other. It says both of them Lo Yichalalu, rather than what it says by Nois, which just says Chilul. But Kayin Tameh Shachal Truma to hire Minala, and if we learned out from Chilul from a Kayin Tameh that ate Truma. Where do we know Kayin Tameh that ate Truma? Where do we know that itself? You should watch the Mishmeres, and you shouldn't be over on a chait. So and from the context of the pasuk, that we see that that's talking about. You see the whole pasuk. It's talking about Mesu boy ki chalu ani Hashem b'kadoshchem. The pasuk then says Umeis. So there's going to be Meis, and that's talking about Truma, eating Truma b'Tahira. Tahira in the Gemara says, Kayin Tameh she'achol Truma. You should realize it's only a Kayin who is Tameh who ate Truma that was tar. But if the Truma had also become Tameh, then he's not going to get the Einish of Misa B'dei Shamayim. The Amishmul were both Tameh to become Tameh, but that's what happened. She'einu b'Misa, there's no din of Misa B'dei Shamayim. She'nemu Maisu by Ki Yechalu. Since it says he shouldn't eat it because it's going to be Mechalet, the kind whose tummy eats it is going to be Mechalet, but this that the Truma was already Mechalel is excluded from the din of Misa. Just to bring you what we're doing here, we brought a brisa that brought a long list of types of Isurim that if you do them, Yichayev Misa B'dei Shamayim, and now we're going through what the sources are for each one. Zar that ate Truma. Amar Rav, Dar Shachal Truma like Rav disagrees. He says, not like we said in the Brisa that a Zar who eats Truma gets Misa B'dei Shamayim, he says it only gets Malkus. Amalei Rav Kahana, Rav Asi, Rav, Leima Mar, the Misa, Dechsev, the Chol Zar, Leyechol Kodesh. The Pasuk says the Zar shouldn't eat Kodesh, and that's talking about, we can see that from the context again of the Pasuk, that it's talking about Mazar, that the Kodesh over here is referring to Truma, because the rest of the Psukim are talking about Truma. And in the previous pasuk, it had said, "V'sham shmativ la yisul lochet u'meisu by ki chalu ani Hashem mekadoshchem." So, what we should apply that misa that it said in the previous pasuk to this that this pasuk that's talking about Azar eating Truma. So there, no, we wouldn't learn misa from there. Ani Hashem mekadoshchem hifzeka inyan. Because it says Ani Hashem mekadoshchem after it says Misa, before it says this pasuk referring to Azar eating Truma, that's mafsik between the Einish of Misa. Meisve. What about our brisa that we're quoting from? Elohin Shem Misa Azar Eichel Truma. We say clearly that Azar Eichel Truma gets Misa. So how could Rav say it's only Malkus? Masisa the Rav Karamas. You're asking a kasha from a brisa on Rav. Rav Tanu Palik. Rav has been chaylik on our brisa. Azar Shashimish. Azar that does avoida. This is our original question of Rav Sheshis, and we brought this brisa that contradicted Rav Sheshis and said that Azar that does. This is not his question. His question is a kind that did a betum. Azar Shashimish is going to be get Misa B'dei Shamayim. They say Azar Karev Yumas. Azar goes to the Beis Hamikdash and does the avoida, gets Misa B'dei Shamayim. The Tamei Shashimish, and Tamei Shashimish, that was what we were talking about. Rav Sheshis. Where do we see that a Tamei that does avoida in the Beis Hamikdash he gets Misa B'dei Shamayim? The Siv tell by Aaron and his sons, and they should stay away from the kachim of Bnei Yisrael. Hashem kachi. When they're Tamei, they have to keep away from kachim. They can't do the avoida. The yal of chilul mitruma. He uses a lashon. It says lo yechalu, so we learn out from Truma. By Truma it also says lo yechalu. So just like by Truma there's a din of Misa B'dei Shamayim, so too by a Kayin Tamei who does Avodah. Malom b'Misa, Avkam b'Misa. Again, we have the same question like we asked before. Let's learn out from Noiser instead, which has Karas as opposed to Misa B'dei Shamayim. Malom Karas, Avkan Karas. So Gemara Mistav Truma Havali L'Melech. Better to learn out from Truma, Shechein Guf. By again, Noiser, the Isser is Noiser, the problem is with the actual kachim. There was left over. Masha Enkein, by over here, we're talking about a Kayin doing Avoida B'Tumah or eating Truma B'Tumah. Both of them, the problem is in the Kayin himself, that he's Tamei. And Mikvah, both of them, if he goes to the Mikvah, he'll take away the Tumah. And berabim, and the lashon is a lashon rab leichalu, as opposed to by nicer, it's a lashon leichal. So the more other rabbi nicer have a lamelef shechein kodesh, it's kodesh, right? Nicer is talking about kodshim as so, and a kohen who's doing avodah is also kodesh. It's in the Beis Hamikdash. It's kodesh, and it's as opposed to eating truma. Truma is not kodesh. It's not talking about in the and pnim. It's done in the Beis Hamikdash, which is a very similar type of objection, where nicer and doing avodah betuma as opposed to truma is not in the Beis Hamikdash. Pigel, the nicer, there's a din of pigel on it, and nicer, there's a din of nicer. Obviously, nicer, we're talking about nicer. So these questions are all very similar because they're all really aspects of the fact that they're kachim. So over here you can't say over here. There's more reasons to say it's like nicer, but in the end, the lashon of the gzeir shava of lo yichalalu is better to say where you have the exact same word as opposed to nicer, where it has a slightly different word of just lo yichalal as opposed to lo yichalalu. Tful yom sheshimish, someone who was not at the full level of tumah, but he was already at tful yom. He had already done the tefillah, but he was waiting for nightfall to become fully tamei. So, and that also that we said is a din of misa b'dei shemayim minalan. Where do we know? The Tanya of Simay Yomer Rem is tful yom shemavad chilel. Where do we know that a tful yom that if he did avoid he's mecholel minayin? Tamalay kadoshim yiyul lekechem v'lo yichalu. The pasuk says an additional pasuk of saying that you shouldn't be mechal by doing betuma. We already learned out a full-fledged tamei that he's going to be mechuyev misa, and we have a second pasuk that says that tamei is when mechuyev is. It says lo yechalalu. There's an anasara also for a tful yom. Tnei winyin lo tful yom sheshimish. V'yalav chil chil mitrum. And again, we learn exer shav chil chil mitrum. Malalam b'misav kam b'misa. We'll learn out as well from Truma to say it's Mechuyev Misa. And you're going to have the question from Noisa we don't ask here because it's going to be identical to what the questions that we had by Tameh. And we do know that someone, a kain who does avodah when he's missing his avodas big day kahuna, that he gets Sechi Misa de Shemayim. Rabbi Yochanan, Umataba, Mishmei de Rabbi Elazar Rav Shimon, Chagarta Moisem Cha'avnet. He should wear his belt. This mancha we're going to malay him kunasam aleichem. The whole pasuk is it says then he's going to be a kayin, so it's a lashon that he's a kayin when he's wearing his begadim. They're treated like a zar. Like we said in the Brisa, a kayin without his begadim becomes downgraded. He's like a zar, and a zar, we already learned out that a zar is mechuyev misa. A mechusar kapara, the lowest level of tuma who does avodah. He's not a full-fledged tuma. He's not even a tful yom because it's already past the time. But he still just has to bring his carbon. For example, like a metzora has to bring a carbon. Where do we know that if he does the avodah before he brings the carbon, is mechuyev misa d'shemayim? Rav Huna da'amar krav v'chipar aleh ha'koyin v'tahera. Tahera mechlal shehi tameya. Pasuk says when he's mechaper by bringing the carbon, then he's a tar. Mash before that he was tamei. V'amar tamei sheshimish b'misa. He's like a regular tamei who does avodah that he's going to be mechuyev misa b'deshamayim. V'shalei rachot shadayim v'raglayim minalan. Where do you know if he didn't do the richot shadayim that he's going to be mechuyev misa b'deshamayim? When Kain does the avodah without washing his hands and feet in the Beis Hamikdash, the pasuk says straight out, he has to wash his hands, otherwise he's going to die. He's going to get Misa D'Shamayim. But Shishu Yain, the kind of does avodah when he's shikar. Where do we know? Yain v'sheicha al teist. The pasuk says, Yain v'sheicha al teist. Atu v'necha itcha b'yichem alay amay v'loy samusu. Pasuk says you're going to die if you do so. Purei roish. Someone a kind who allowed his hair to grow. Where do we know he gets Misa D'Shamayim? The tzib roishim lo yigalechu. You shouldn't shave your hair off. Upara lo yishalchu, but you also shouldn't let it grow too long. And right after that, it says the isser to do avodah wall sheker. It says allowing hair to grow is compared to drinking wine, to sheker mash yayin b'misa, puri roish b'misa. We went from shisha yayin to puri roish. Aval oral but someone who is who didn't get a bris, Eina Einin, or someone who does avodah while he's an Einin, or someone who does avodah Yoshev, Azhara, those only Azhara, they don't have Misa. Aral Minolim. Where do we know Aral is only a lav? Amar because the dove is there. It tells Moshe Rabbeinu Manu. We don't have it from Moshe Rabbeinu the Isser. Achava Yechazkel ben Buzi. You only have it from the Navi and Yechazkel. Lamdenu Kol ben Nechel Aral Lev Aral Basel Yavai a Mikdashi L'Sharsi. That's where the pasuk. That's where we have a pasuk that you shouldn't. Someone who's a Aral Lev, if he's a Mummer or he's a Aral Basel, he didn't get a bris for whatever reason, he can't do the avodah, and there's no Chiv Misa there. Einin Minala, where do we know an Einin? It says by Kohen Gadol that he shouldn't go out and do the avodah when he's an Einin. I mean, he shouldn't leave the base of Mikdash. He should continue doing the avodah. It's mashma that anyone besides a Kohen Gadol who is an Einin has to leave the base of Mikdash, and he can't continue doing the avodah. Let's learn out chilul to say in Einin. It says lo yichalis mikdashi. Let's say the chilul is telling you that he gets an Einish misa, not just a lav. Mahalam b'misa afkam b'misa. So come on, miksiv bei begufei. It doesn't say over here directly that an Einin is asur. It says a kohen gadol. There's no din. He does do the avodah. So we learn out from the fact that the kohen gadol does do the avodah when he's an einin, that a regular kohen doesn't. So it's just learn out michlal. We deduce it from the pasuk. Michlal kasi. You can't learn a gzeir shava to something that's learned down in the cloud. It's not directly stated in the pasuk. You have to have it directly stated in order to learn out a gzeir shava. Yoshev minam amarav amarav nachman amakrab ki boy bachar shemalechet mishavtecha lamed l'sharis lamid bachar tiviloi liyeshiva. Okay, we'll stop over here and we'll do the rest of them, I guess. I'd love to try to do tonight. At least finish the parak tonight for 10 minutes. Maybe 5 minutes even. To you. We're gonna have to